I still remember the first time I saw Ethan. He was standing at the corner of the cafe near my office, his tie loosened, his smile disarming. I was rushing to grab my morning coffee before a meeting, and there he was, confident, charming, the kind of man who seemed like he had life all figured out. I didn't know then that his smile hid the sharp fangs of a predator. Back then, I was a different woman. My name is Olivia, and I was 27, hopeful, and foolish enough to believe in fairy tale endings. I worked as a marketing coordinator in a firm where deadlines ate up nights and weekends. My life was simple: work, home, repeat. That morning, Ethan interrupted that routine with one sentence. "Coffee looks better in your hands than in this paper cup." I laughed. God, I actually blushed. No one had flirted with me so effortlessly. And before I knew it, he asked for my number. Over the next few weeks, he painted me a dream. Flowers at my office desk, surprise dinners, long drives with the city lights glittering like stars. He said all the right things. "You deserve the world, Olivia. I'll never let you down. You're the only woman I see." I let myself believe him. Months turned into a year, and soon he proposed. It wasn't flashy, not like the movies, but it was heartfelt, or so I thought. We sat by the lake, the water reflecting the sunset, and he slipped a ring on my finger. I cried. He kissed me. For a moment, I believed I had finally found the man who would love me forever. But love was just the bait in Ethan's web. The first cracks appeared soon after the wedding. Ethan was distant at times, his phone glued to his hand. He started working late nights, coming home with the scent of expensive perfume that wasn't mine. I tried to ignore it at first. I told myself, he's just stressed. Maybe it's work. Maybe I'm overthinking. But deep down, a knot of fear tightened in my chest. Then came the lies. Small at first, little excuses. My phone died. I was with James, you can call him if you want. The perfume? Oh, one of my coworkers hugged me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to be the trusting wife. But the lies piled up like bricks building a wall between us. One night, I tried to reach for his phone while he showered. My hands trembled, my heart pounded, but the phone was locked with a new password. That was the moment I knew he had secrets. I confronted him, of course. "Ethan, are you hiding something from me?" He looked me dead in the eyes, his voice steady. "Olivia, you're imagining things. Don't let your insecurities ruin us." Gaslighting. That's what he did. He made me question myself, my sanity. And I fell for it, at least for a while. But then, fate gave me a clue. It was a Saturday morning. Ethan left for the gym, but his gym bag sat forgotten in the hallway. As I moved it, his second phone, a phone I never knew existed, slipped out. My stomach dropped. Hands shaking, I opened it. No password. Maybe he thought I'd never find it. There it was. Messages, photos, calls. A woman named Sophie. The texts were disgusting, sweet nothings he used to say to me now recycled for her. Pictures of dinners, hotel rooms, even gifts I thought he bought for me. My hands went cold. My vision blurred with tears. In that moment, I wanted to scream, to throw things, to call him and demand answers. But something inside me shifted. Instead of breaking down, I went quiet. A strange calmness washed over me. Because for the first time, I saw Ethan for what he really was. A liar, a manipulator, a man who thought I was too weak to see through his web. He thought he had trapped me. But what he didn't know was that he had just set the stage for his own downfall. I closed the phone, put it back exactly where I found it, and pretended nothing had happened. That night, when Ethan kissed me goodnight, I smiled back. I let him believe I was still blind, still the naive wife who worshipped the ground he walked on. But inside, a fire had ignited. Every word he spoke, every excuse he made, every time he touched his phone, I memorized it all. I started watching him carefully, noting his patterns, his lies, the way he tried to cover his tracks. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. No, I was going to plan. Slowly. Quietly. Carefully. Because if Ethan thought I'd stay weak, he was about to learn just how dangerous a betrayed woman could be. And my revenge would burn his world down. That night, as I lay in bed pretending to sleep, Ethan whispered on his phone in the bathroom. I couldn't hear all the words, but I caught one sentence that made my blood run cold. Don't worry, Sophie. She has no idea. She'll never find out. I opened my eyes in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, my fists clenched under the blanket. He had no idea. But soon he would. I whispered to myself in the silence of our bedroom, a promise carved deep into my soul. Ethan thinks he's the spider, but he doesn't know I've already started weaving my own web. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Pretending to be blind, pretending not to know the truth, was like swallowing poison every morning and smiling through the pain. But I had to. If I showed even the slightest crack, Ethan would sense it. And I needed him comfortable, confident, believing that his little game was still hidden from me. So I played the role of the doting wife. Did you sleep well, honey? I asked, pouring him coffee. He smiled, that same crooked smile that once melted my heart but now made me sick. Best sleep ever, thanks to you. I wanted to slam the cup in his face. Instead, I kissed his cheek. Inside, I was keeping score. It wasn't enough to know he was cheating. I needed proof, undeniable evidence that would trap him in his own lies. The second phone gave me plenty, but I wanted more. I wanted his world to crumble so thoroughly that he couldn't wriggle out with his usual excuses. So I began my research. Ethan wasn't just careless with his phone. He had habits. He left his car keys lying around. He kept his credit card statements in the drawer by his desk. And he never thought I'd dare to look. One afternoon, when he was at work, I sat at his desk. My hands trembled as I sifted through papers. Credit card bills with charges at luxury hotels. Receipts for expensive jewelry I never received. Dinners at restaurants I'd never stepped foot in. The lies were piling up like dead bodies, rotting, stinking. And I was collecting every piece. But revenge isn't just about exposing the truth. It's about timing. And I wanted Ethan to feel it. So I started testing him. One evening, as he came home later than usual, I asked casually, "How was James?" "You two must have had a long night." His eyes flickered, just for a second. Then he smiled. "Yeah, James had a lot to vent about." I laughed softly, sipping my wine. "I'll have to thank him sometime for keeping you so entertained." He nodded, oblivious, never realizing I already knew James had been on a business trip for 2 weeks. I started setting little traps. I left my perfume bottle near his gym bag. The next day, Sophie texted him, "Why does your bag smell like a woman's perfume?" I smirked when I read it later on his secret phone. Ethan panicked, sending reassurance after reassurance, scrambling to cover up lies that were unraveling on both ends. He had no idea I was the one pulling the threads. But the hardest part was acting normal around him in bed. He'd pull me close, kiss my neck, whisper sweet lies in my ear. I wanted to shove him away, scream the truth, demand why I wasn't enough. But I didn't. Because every kiss he gave me felt like fuel to the fire I was building. One night, as he drifted off beside me, I stared at his sleeping face. He looked so peaceful, innocent, even. But I knew better. He wasn't a man. He was a mask. And soon, I would rip that mask off in front of everyone. Then came the moment that pushed me over the edge. I was folding laundry when Ethan's second phone buzzed. He'd forgotten to hide it that morning. I glanced down, and the message glared back at me. "I can't wait until she's out of the way, Ethan. Then we can finally be together without hiding. Out of the way." The words echoed in my skull like a warning bell. My hand shook so badly that I dropped the clothes on the floor. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning a future with her. He wanted me gone. And in that moment, my revenge transformed. It wasn't just about teaching him a lesson anymore. It wasn't just about making him regret. It was about destroying him. I began to gather allies without him knowing. I reached out to James, yes, the real James. He was stunned when I told him Ethan was using him as an alibi. James was furious. That son of a Olivia, whatever you're planning, I'm in. I spoke to Ethan's mother casually too. She adored me, often telling me I was the best thing that had happened to her son. When I hinted that Ethan had been acting distant, she frowned deeply. If he's hurting you, Olivia, he'll answer to me. Good. Let him face not just me, but the people he thought he could fool forever. The web was spinning tighter. And Ethan? He was clueless. One night, he even had the audacity to toast at dinner. To us, Olivia. To forever. I raised my glass, smiling sweetly, hiding the storm behind my eyes. But in my head, I thought, forever ended the day you chose Sophie. The next morning, I followed him. I'd never done it before, but something told me I had to see it with my own eyes. He left at 9 a.m., claiming he had a meeting downtown. Instead, I trailed his car to a hotel. I sat there in my car, watching, as Sophie arrived in a red dress, her arms wide open. Ethan kissed her right there in the parking lot, bold, careless, certain he was untouchable. My nails dug into the steering wheel, my chest heaving with rage. But instead of breaking, I smiled. Because now, I had seen it for myself. And the image of him with her would fuel every ounce of destruction I had planned. As Ethan disappeared into the hotel with Sophie, I whispered to myself, enjoy it while you can, Ethan. Because soon, you'll lose everything. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's lips on hers, his hands around her waist, the way he looked at Sophie with the kind of passion he hadn't shown me in years. The image was burned into me like a scar. But instead of crying, I planned. This wasn't just about catching him anymore. It was about making sure he could never lie his way out of it. I wanted him cornered, stripped of every excuse, with nowhere to run. So the next day, I began laying the foundation. First, I started with evidence. I went back to that hotel. I knew the receptionist, a kind older woman named Linda who had once complimented my wedding ring. Linda, I whispered with a smile, can you do me a favor? Could you tell me if my husband has been checking in here lately? His name is Ethan. Her eyes darted nervously, but then softened when she saw the pain on my face. Olivia, I probably shouldn't, but yes. He's been here. More than once. Always with the same woman. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Thank you. She hesitated, then leaned closer. If you ever need a copy of his check and slips, I could make that happen. My heart raced. Yes.
Nice.
I'll owe you forever. Piece by piece, the puzzle was coming together. Next, I hacked into his cloud storage, the same one where he thought he cleverly hid his photos. Ethan had forgotten I knew his old passwords. And there they were. Pictures of them together. His arms around her. Her lipstick smeared on his cheek. Selfies in bed. I stared at them until my eyes blurred with tears. Then I hit download. Not to keep as reminders of pain, but as weapons. But I didn't want just proof. I wanted betrayal revealed in the most dramatic, undeniable way possible. And I knew exactly how to do it. Our anniversary was coming up. Ethan had already hinted at a surprise dinner he was planning. My lips curled into a bitter smile. Perfect. Let him plan the stage. I would provide the fireworks. The days crawled by as I pretended everything was normal. I cooked his favorite meals. I listened to his fake stories about working late. I even laughed at his stupid jokes. But inside, I was rehearsing. Every word, every move. When the night of our anniversary finally came, Ethan was unusually cheerful. He wore his best suit, spritzed on his expensive cologne, and winked at me as we got in the car. "You're going to love this, Olivia. Tonight is about us." A fresh start. I nearly choked on my own rage. A fresh start? With Sophie waiting in the shadows? I clenched my fists in my lap and smiled. I can't wait. The restaurant was fancy, dimly lit, the kind of place where every table had a candle glowing in the center. Ethan held my hand across the table, playing the part of the perfect husband. "You look beautiful tonight," he said softly. I leaned forward, matching his gaze. "And you look like a man with a lot to hide." His smile faltered. "What?" I tilted my head. "Tell me, Ethan, do you always kiss Sophie before or after dinner?" The color drained from his face. He froze, his fork clattering against the plate. I don't know what you're talking about." I laughed, but it wasn't the laugh of a loving wife. It was sharp, broken, dripping with venom. "Don't insult me, Ethan. I followed you to the hotel. I've seen the photos. I've read the messages. Do you really think you could hide her from me?" The entire restaurant went quiet. Heads turned. Whispers floated around us. Ethan stammered, "Olivia, please, not here." I slammed my hand on the table. "Why not here? Why not let the whole world see the kind of man you really are?" His mask cracked. He leaned in, his voice low, desperate. "It's not what you think. She means nothing." "Nothing?" I hissed. "You bought her jewelry. You took her to hotels. You told her you couldn't wait until I was out of the way." His eyes widened. He hadn't expected me to see that message. "You planned a future with her, Ethan, while I was here, building one with you." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away as if his touch burned me. "Olivia, I made mistakes. I didn't mean." "Mistakes?" My voice cracked, tears welling in my eyes. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, Ethan. Sleeping with another woman for months and planning to replace your wife? That's not a mistake. That's a choice." The room was suffocating with silence. Ethan's lips trembled, his confident facade crumbling. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. But I wasn't finished. I pulled out my phone, pressing play on a recording I had saved. Sophie's voice filled the restaurant. "I can't wait until she's out of the way, Ethan. Then we can finally be together without hiding." Gasps erupted from the nearby tables. Ethan's face turned ashen, his hands shaking. "Olivia, please, turn it off." "No," I said coldly. "Let them hear. Let them all hear what kind of husband you are." Tears spilled down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of weakness anymore. They were tears of release. For so long, I had carried his lies in silence. But now, the world knew. Ethan's eyes darted around the room, desperate for escape, for control, for anything to grab onto. But there was nothing left. He had fallen into his own web of lies, and I had just torn it apart. As I stood up from the table, leaving Ethan trembling in shame, he grabbed my arm desperately and whispered, "Olivia, if you walk away now, you'll regret it." I looked into his eyes, my voice steady and cold. "No, Ethan. The only one who's going to regret anything is you." I walked out of the restaurant with my head high, leaving Ethan drowning in whispers, judgment, and humiliation. For once, he was the one exposed, not me. But I wasn't done. Humiliation was only the beginning. I wanted him to feel what I had felt, the emptiness, the betrayal, the utter loss of control. And so began the second phase of my plan. The very next morning, I visited a lawyer. Her name was Claire, a sharp-eyed woman who wasted no time sugarcoating. After I explained everything, Ethan's affair, the evidence, the recordings, she leaned back in her chair, a smile tugging at her lips. Olivia, you've got him cornered. With this much proof, the divorce court won't just favor you. It'll crush him. Assets, alimony, the house, you can take almost everything. Her words tasted like justice. For once, I had power in my hands. Do it, I whispered. File the papers. And make sure he doesn't see them coming. Back at home, Ethan tried to act normal. Olivia, he said that night, his voice softer than I'd heard in years. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Please, don't throw everything away. Think about what we've built. I stared at him, forcing my expression blank. Inside, I wanted to laugh. Now he wanted to save the marriage he'd already destroyed? Do you love her, Ethan? I asked suddenly. His eyes flickered. A pause. Too long. And that pause told me everything I needed to know. Days later, Ethan discovered the divorce papers. He stormed into the living room, red-faced, clutching the envelope. What the hell is this, Olivia? I didn't even look up from my tea. What does it look like? You're divorcing me? After everything I've done for you? His voice cracked, more with panic than anger. I finally met his gaze, calm, steady, almost amused. After everything you've done for me? Yes. Exactly. He paced the room like a trapped animal. You can't do this. You'll ruin me. I tilted my head, savoring his desperation. Funny. That's exactly how you made me feel when I found out about Sophie. That's when I saw it. The fear. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing his lifestyle, his reputation, his control. And I intended to strip all of it away. I leaked pieces of our story, carefully, strategically. Not lies, just truths that Ethan never wanted the world to know. His business partners learned about his late nights at the office. His family heard the recordings. Even his mother, who once worshipped him, called me in tears, whispering, I'm so sorry, Olivia. I never thought my son was capable of this. Every mask Ethan wore was falling. But Sophie, she wasn't about to stay silent either. One evening, I received a message from an unknown number. It was her. You think you've won? You're pathetic. He'll never love you the way he loves me. I smirked at the screen. Poor Sophie. She still believed she was special, that she was different. She didn't know Ethan like I did. So I replied with a single picture. Ethan's wedding vows framed on our wall, signed in his handwriting. And below it, I typed. He said the same words to me once. Look how that turned out. Her silence after that was sweeter than any victory. But Ethan wasn't finished trying. One night, he came into my room, our room, though it felt less like home now, and sank to his knees. Olivia, I'm begging you. Don't do this. Don't destroy us. I'll end it with Sophie. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked down at him, the once proud man who had thrown me away now trembling at my feet. You don't get to decide the ending anymore, Ethan. I do. He reached for my hand, tears brimming in his eyes. I love you. For a second, my chest tightened. The words I had once craved from him now sounded hollow, poisoned. I pulled my hand back. You don't love me. You love control. And you've lost it. That night, as he slept on the couch, I stared out the window and felt something shift inside me. For so long, I had been the weak one, the betrayed one, the discarded wife. But now, I was something else. I wasn't just Olivia, the woman Ethan cheated on. I was Olivia, the woman who took back her power. And Ethan, he was about to lose everything. The next morning, Ethan received a phone call that made him turn pale. His biggest client had pulled out of a major deal, citing ethical concerns. He looked at me, his face filled with horror, and whispered, What did you do? I smiled, sipping my coffee. Nothing. Ethan. I just told the truth. Ethan's voice trembled as he slammed the phone shut. They backed out. Millions gone. Olivia, do you realize what you've done? You're destroying my career. I took another calm sip of my coffee, my robe wrapped around me like armor. Correction. You destroyed it yourself. I just made sure the truth wasn't hidden anymore. His fists clenched, his jaw tight. You'll regret this. I swear you'll regret this. But his threats didn't scare me anymore. They sounded like the hollow roars of a man who had already lost. In the weeks that followed, Ethan's downfall unfolded like clockwork. First, more clients walked away, unwilling to associate with a man whose personal scandals were splashed across whispers in boardrooms. His pristine reputation crumbled, leaving him scrambling. Then Sophie, sweet, naive Sophie, decided she wasn't cut out for a sinking ship. One night, I overheard their screaming match through the thin walls of the guest room where Ethan had been banished. You promised me everything, Ethan. A life with you, a future, she shrieked. I had everything until Olivia ruined it, he barked back. Her bitter laugh cut through the silence. Don't blame her. You ruined it yourself. The next morning, Sophie was gone. No note, no trace. Just the faint smell of her perfume lingering on his shirts. Meanwhile, my lawyer Claire worked relentlessly. By the time we sat in front of the judge, Ethan's face was a shadow of the man I'd once known, gaunt, pale, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Mr. Carter, the judge declared, flipping through the evidence, it's clear you violated the trust and vows of this marriage in ways both personal and financial. Given the circumstances, this court rules heavily in Mrs. Carter's favor. Half of his assets. The house. Alimony. It was everything he feared and more. He turned to me in the courtroom, his eyes bloodshot, his voice breaking. Please, Olivia, don't take everything. I have nothing left. For a moment, the years of love and memories tugged at me. The vacations, the laughter, the way he once held my hand like I was his entire world. But then I remembered the lies. The whispers. The nights he left me alone while he was with her. You should have thought about that before you burned me down, Ethan, I said, my voice steady. And with that, the gavel fell. The day I moved out was the day I felt truly free. I packed my belongings slowly, deliberately, leaving behind everything that tied me to the woman I used to be. When I walked through the door one last time, Ethan stood in the hallway, broken. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes sunken, his voice barely a whisper. Olivia, please, don't leave me like this. I don't know how to live without you. I paused at the door, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Once those words would have shattered me. But now? They only confirmed what I already knew. He wasn't mourning me. He was mourning his loss of control, his loss of comfort. I was willing to give you forever, Ethan, I said softly. But you chose lies instead. Now you get to live with them. And I walked away, the click of my heels echoing like a closing chapter. Life after Ethan wasn't easy. I had to rebuild from the ground up. But for the first time in years, I felt alive. My mornings were no longer filled with suspicion or dread. My nights weren't spent wondering where he was. I filled my days with things that made me again, painting, visiting old friends, traveling to places I'd only dreamed of when I was too busy being the perfect wife. And slowly, I realized something powerful. Revenge wasn't just about tearing him down. It was about reclaiming myself. Months later, I heard Ethan had sold his car, downsized to a dingy apartment, and was struggling to find stable work. His charm, once his greatest asset, no longer dazzled anyone. I should have felt guilty, maybe even pitiful. But instead, I felt peace. Because I hadn't destroyed him. He had destroyed himself. One evening, as the sun set behind my new home, a small cottage by the sea, I stood on the porch with a glass of wine, breathing in the salty air. For the first time, I wasn't defined by his betrayal. I wasn't the wife who had been cheated on. I wasn't the woman trapped in his web of lies. I was Olivia, strong, whole, free. And as the waves crashed against the shore, I whispered to myself, he thought he could burn me down. But instead, I rose from the ashes. And somewhere in the distance, I knew Ethan was still haunted, because no matter how far he ran, he would always remember the woman who burned his world down with nothing but the truth.